Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name is Doug, your host for this evening. We've got an interesting show for you tonight, and hopefully something a little bit different that you'll be excited to see and enjoy taking part in. First of all, I'll just welcome my co-hosts for the evening who will be participating tonight. So first of all, I introduce Billy. Hi, Billy.
Hi, Doug. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad yourself?
Yeah, it's good. Been a decent enough day. Sun's kind of shining here.
Good stuff, good stuff. And then just below me, I've got Ricky. How are you, Ricky?
I am, Doug. I'm fine. Thank you very much, mate. Thanks for having me on again. Billy, Cammy, nice to meet you for the first time, and looking forward to tonight. Bearing in mind it is only my second show, so still a wee bit nervous, but looking forward to it nonetheless.
Oh, no doubt you'll be excellent, Ricky. No worry at all. And finally, of course, the man with the background to rival all backgrounds, we've got Cammy. How you doing, mate?
Aye, good. Just looking forward to talking about some real Rangers players for the next hour and a bit, rather than what we currently need. So it's going to be good.
Absolutely. Okay, so this evening we've got, as I say, a bit of a special show for you guys. This one was a viewer suggested show where we put in a selection of our best Rangers 11s, but with some specific and unique rules into how to make that 11. So first of all, I'll just explain to everyone watching what those rules were. So to make our 11s, we had to first of all have no British players included, which sadly pulled out a lot of our favourites, I think, straight away. Number two, we're to only have one player per nation. And the third rule was that we must have seen them live, which for me was a particular pain, having not been to anywhere near as much as I'd like to have been. So the combination of 2 and 3 were a real pain. But we've managed to do it. The 4 of us have all come up with an 11, and we're going to present those 11s to you. And then we will let you guys vote at the end which one you think is the best. Now we did make a couple of little extra compromises with this. Our first versions, I think if we'd just done it completely independently, you'd have probably got a bunch of 11s that are very similar. So we have made some concessions to give them a little bit of interest. But as I say, I think most people have gotten largely what they wanted to within the rules anyway. So we're going to start off with Billy. We're going to go with what Billy's 11 is. So the way we're going to go through this, guys, is just we'll talk about everyone's sort of defence, get a little bit of feedback from everyone about that. Then we'll talk about the midfields and then the attacking groups and go through that way. Okay, so Billy's starting defence. Billy, do you want to take us through who you've picked and why?
Well, I'll not. I mean, Stefan Klos for me is probably in his prime the best foreign goalkeeper. I maybe would say that Andy Gorm and probably McGregor push him overall as maybe close. I mean, they'll be close, but definitely for foreign goalkeepers. The other consideration for me was just a pure madness, Charbonnier, because he seemed like an exceptional personality, to say the least. But so Klos is my goalkeeper. I thought Bassey, the run to Seville was outstanding. He maybe played more as a centre half, but I also liked him as a left back as well. On the other side, I ideally would have liked Giovanni, but for other constraints as regards the nations, I've went for Fernando Rickson because again, he played some great games at right back for us. Bagheera, probably, if I'd had a bit more time, I maybe would have chosen someone else over Bagheera. I know a couple of other. Well, I'm not ruining anyone else's team, but again, he played fantastic under Walter Smith, and it was solid defender. I think maybe between him and Carlos Cuellar was my kind of debating one. And then Craig Moore, he's won the treble with us. He had 2 stints with us. I think he played over 140 odd games for us. And at the back with Amo, I think it was probably his best time. But that's my feeling behind them. But with the constraints that we're given to us, that's the best I could come up with.
Cool. Okay, so if I switch over to Cammy for a second, what do you make of that back 5, Cammy? You think that could do a job for us today? You're on mute there.
The goalkeeper is undoubtedly the goalkeeper that I think I wanted, but the constraints elsewhere. I would probably have went a back three. I preferred Fernando Ricksen playing in the middle of the park. I think Moore, Bougera and Bassey, I think, would be a good three if you were going three at the back, because Bougera is the middle. He liked to wander, you know. So all got their qualities.
If I could come in, Cammy, sorry, that was my initial plan, but I couldn't get a midfield to work, so that's why I just went for it at the back.
Aye, but it's deep. I mean, Stefan Klos was a fantastic goalkeeper. Craig Moore, I think, as Billy said, Moore and Amoruso were a really good pairing. You know, it just personal preference. You know, it's I preferred Fernando in the middle of the park, but the rules that we had. But certainly, I would take that back five playing in the season ahead. That's for sure.
And what about you, Ricky? What do you make of that? Who would you pick as your favourite player out of those?
Yeah, well, I didn't take Klos because I've got a certain other German in my team, which obviously we'll come on to, which is pretty obvious, I suppose. But Klos, and I totally agree with you, Billy, probably the best goalkeeper we've had in the modern era outside Andy Gorham. So, yeah, he was just Mr. Reliable and a fantastic goalkeeper. I said to you the other day there about Bassey, I totally forgot that he was Nigerian. But what a player he was. What he done for us in the run to Seville, well, we ended up getting a lot of money from Ajax because of that form that he showed. And he was just so good to watch, so powerful. And yeah, we've never replaced him. Fernando Ricksen speaks for himself. Yeah, good. And I would have him down as a right back anyway, not so much in the midfield. I just always seem to remind Ricksen as being a kind of full-back. I'm wrong there. And I've actually got Big Boogie in my team. Won the league with us, playing alongside Weir, which, and again, I think it was solid, reliable, and he loved those surging runs up through the middle of the park when he could get away with it. But he had the power to get back and cover his mistakes. And Craig Moore, yeah, Mr. Dependable. He played well for Rangers. So that's a good selection there, Billy, I think. Totally agree. I do like the Bassey introduction of that one.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving into your midfield, Billy, let's bring that up here. So we've got Laudrup, Reina, and Kanchelskis. I'll take us through those.
I mean, Brian Laudrup, for me, is our best ever player. Maybe you could argue with that, but he's certainly up there in the top one or two, surely. Reina is kind of my holding, is my rock. He's going to break down any attacks that on the counter attack, because this is very much an attacking team. This is the team that's going to get a lot of goals, and we'll score one more than you kind of philosophy behind it. Kanchelskis, we were just talking about him recently, so I think that's why I came to. I think it might be on Monday's pod we mentioned them, or something at least recently we mentioned them. Now, I guess I'm thinking of the Kanchelskis of maybe Man United. He didn't reach. He didn't have the legs, I think, anymore by the time he came to us. But just was looking for a good left and a good right winger, and his name came to mind. And for what's the word for the standing on the ball and doing the thing at Hampden, where I was there live. I got to see that. Was it Ayr United we're playing against? Yeah, is that right? Yeah, I put him in for the kind of historical sakes or whatever I can't remember the word, but when you look back on the past fondly, I put him in for that.
Sounds good. Ricky, if I bring you in first on that, how do you fancy that as a three?
Debate wasn't it? Laudrup without a shadow of a doubt, as you can see when it pops up. He's in my team, and echo.
Spoilers.
He's Mr. Rangers, maybe Gascoigne going back in the day. There may have been better players in the 70s. Jim Baxter. I mean, I don't remember Jim Baxter, but Laudrup has got to be up there as one of our best ever players, and that's saying something, isn't it? Kanchelskis, Yeah, I mean, he did a job. We have got the constraints, obviously, of picking a single nation. And Claudio Reyna, yeah, I mean, Mr. Dependable in the middle of the park, didn't let you down, really. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be my central midfielder, but yeah, I think Laudrup certainly is a player to be.
So, what about you, Cammy?
I love the boldness of having Laudrup and Kanchelskis as part of a middle three. You know, it's all out. Claudio Reyna is going to have one hell of a job on, to be honest with you. He's going to have to do some covering. I was a great fan of Claudio Reyna, very versatile. Could play in different situations and different formations and what have you. Laudrup, as you say, speaks for itself. Kanchelskis, I think we all remember the Kanchelskis at Man United. You know, that wasn't the version that we got when he came to Rangers. You know, but I love the attacking. We're going to win 7-6 attitude of Billy here. So it's bold. That's what I would, not quite what I would go for, but I admire the boldness of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I could totally see Bassey and Rickson kind of just pushing up to make a 3 with Reyna, and that would be the block, and the guys ahead of that would do most of the attacking. So, you know, it could work. So let's see who is going to be doing the majority of that attacking. And we have, as if the boldness was not enough, we've now got Arveladze, Morelos and Negri. Between those two alone, I think we'll have a couple of bookings in Billy's team as well. Do you want to talk us through those three?
I'm a fan of Morelos. Maybe not the last season, but I loved Alfie playing for us. So just to have him there as the battering ram. Negri gave us maybe the best 6 month of strikers ever given us, with all those goals. So that's the Negri I want the first half of that season before certain squash incidents. And Arveladze, I just feel, was a completely underrated player that, you know, with us to a degree, but also he was kind of came out of nowhere. But he was one of Europe's top goal scorers when we got him at the time, so we maybe shouldn't have thought he was out of nowhere. But I felt he was always kind of just not really considered as good as I thought he was, at least by the fan base. And he also played the supporting role quite a lot. So I figured him just behind that front two of Morelos and Negri would go. Let me just also quantify something that Cammy was saying. This is not my natural inclination to be as attacking as this. But you know, going through the players, and I want Negri in the team, I want Laudrup in the team. So it ends up being more attacking than I maybe would have if I had to sit down with every single player without the national constraints that we keep going back to. But I think that team scores 7, Cammy. I think you're right.
Absolutely, I can definitely see a lot coming out there. And as you say, I think we've all had to make certain concessions to what we would want to do and who we would like to pick. Given the rules, I know among all of us, I think there was a couple of struggles with that. Okay, so that's our team for Billy. I will bring all the teams up at the end so that folk can vote on them. But thanks to Billy for going through his team there. Either Cammy or Ricky, do you want to make any comment on the attacking team at all?
Well, Arveladze, I thought was a great player, yeah. So I'll give Billy the background on that one. Marco Negri, he was certainly in my thoughts 33 goals. I think he scored in that kind of 4 or 5 months with us. I think it was 5 in one game against Dundee United, which I remember quite vividly. And it's just a shame that we actually lost him through that so-called injury on a squash court to his eye with a squash ball, apparently. So you know, it's good that the big fella comes back to all these kind of testimonial games, and that's just good to see. And Alfie, Alfie on his day, certainly his early days, second season with us, was a great player to have in that team. He could just hold up the play, involve the midfield, involve the forward runners. He could bully the whole defence. But unfortunately, Morelos, for me, down tools at least a season, if not more, prior to him departing, which is a shame because he had everything going for him.
Absolutely. What about you, Cammy?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at one of the comments where somebody's put a team in and there's like 5 British players in amongst it. You know, I'm going.
They're getting to feel the pain now. As well.
I think they missed the start of the pod.
It's Shota Arveladze, I think, was a very underrated player. You know, I mean, I think it was a coup. We played him more from the sort of left in my recollection, you know, and I think Morelos was very, very with it. He was very, very close to making my final cut. There was a period, particularly Europa League. He gave us his best performances, certainly, I think, in Europe. So I think I could have made a case for Arveladze on the left, Morelos in the middle, and somebody else on the right-hand side, just playing a slightly different sort of formation. Negri, that first few months, my goodness, I remember thinking this guy's just unplayable, you know. And the one thing that sticks out is Morelos and Negri. My God, you wouldn't get a lot of smiles out of the pair of them when they scored a goal, you know. Negri, the master of the skill, and Morelos was exactly the same, you know. But I think there's plenty of goals in that team, and I think 7 would probably be the sort of thing you were looking for on a regular basis, because there's plenty of goals. Arveladze's goal return, he loved a shot from distance, you know, and I think a player that I would love to have seen at Rangers for longer.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think we could have got a bit more out of him, a bit more time as well. So we've got Billy's team there. Speaking of what you're saying about, we only got a good 6 months out of Negri. Something I meant to mention when we were doing the pod on Monday is that 6 months was not just our best of Negri, but Negri's best. It accounted for something like 32% of his entire career goals that 6 months. So it wasn't just us. Okay, doc. So we've got Billy's team there. I think we'll agree. Got some exciting choices in that. So we're now going to move over to Ricky. So Ricky gave us a couple of spoilers during Billy's team. So we'll start off with your defence. Do you want to take us through your choices there, Ricky?
Well, firstly, I have to confess, I've had to cheat a little bit because I left Scotland from my military career when I was 16. And I've not really been back. So I've not been to Ibrox probably anywhere near as much as you guys, but I can assure you I've seen these guys on the telly, through Rangers TV, throughout the various countries I've lived in throughout my career. So I've had to cheat a little bit, which is understandable. But I put in Anthony Niemi, and not because he was the best goalkeeper. He's in there purely for the fun factor, because one of the best gags I've ever had in my life is when he was playing with Hearts, and the guy phoned in, claiming he was finished. It was an interview with Arthur Albiston. For any of the viewers out there who've never seen that, you've got to go into YouTube and have a look at that. It's fantastic. It's really funny. But to be fair to Anthony Niemi, he was signaged in between Charbonnier and Kloss and Andy Gorham. So he was always really down as number 2. But he proved when he was at Hearts, he was a top goalkeeper, and we would have got the best out of him had he stayed. But when Kloss came in, he went down to Charlton on loan and never come back to Ibrox. So the sort of the defence here, not any kind of real formation, to be fair. It's just like 3 kind of defenders. I know Gio can play in the middle of the park as well, but I always remember him playing on the left-hand side. He was an all-round, very, very good football player, Gio van Bronckhorst. Came in to us, and we moved him on for £8.5 million. So that's very good value for money. Won his 2 league titles, and he was pivotal to the Advocate era. I think that you can't really argue that he was one of Rangers' stalwarts at that particular period. Big Majid, what they spoke about him. Papac, Mr. Dependable, left back, never let you down. It's a solid player. And Boomsong, I put him in there really because I always just remember he coming in and doing really well for us, Boomsong. But we sold him. Graham Souness was down in Newcastle, and we sold him like 4 months later for £8 million. So when Souness bidded that kind of money, Rangers and the McLeish couldn't turn it down. So he went down there and he had an absolute nightmare for what I could remember. So it was like £8 million. Thanks very much, Newcastle. So, with the restraints of the nationalities, there's definitely other players out there that you could argue, but yeah, they were the ones that came to my mind first and foremost.
Yeah, I think everyone thought there was something maybe going on with that Boomsong transfer, but worked for us, so we'll take that. What do you make of that, Billy? What's your thoughts on that defence?
I mean, I would have had Gio if I could have done it with the nation's constraints. I love Gio. Scored one of my favourite goals, a free kick against Galatasaray. I don't know if you remember that one, but it was an absolute bust the back of the net one. And just successful with us. Looking back on who he played with, I remember when he came in to be the manager, a lot of fans were happy because he'll know what it's like to play in the league. But look at the players he had around him at the time. That's maybe why it didn't work. He wasn't working with the same players that he had when he was here. Papac, I think he was bought as a centre half, but Smith kind of turned him into a left back, didn't he? And Boomsong again probably had the same like Marco Negri career, the best 6 months he's ever played football, and we couldn't turn that money down. That is the player trading model at its finest. And I mean, I had Bagheera as well, so I can't argue with Bagheera being in the team. I like all those players. Nemi in goal, the only thing I would say is I remember him being better for Hearts than he was for us.
He was fantastic.
Kind of it was a bane of Rangers, I guess. He did pretty well with them. I actually thought we got him from Hearts. I just did a quick search there. No, we had him first, and then, as you say, he went down south and then came back up to Hearts. But great goalkeeper. I don't think he'd done it in our shirt, or he was fine, but he wasn't as good as I think when he went to Hearts.
Yeah, he wasn't getting a game when Advocat came in. And that's why he ended up moving on.
Okay, Cammy, any thoughts on those guys?
Gio, fantastic player. I think very versatile. Could play equally. He played, in my recollection, playing for the national team. When he went to Barcelona, he played an awful lot at left back. Just a lovely footballer. Sasa Papac, solid as a solid and dependable 7 out of 10. Boomsong, it's really one of those head scratchers that he gave us 5-6 months. Great football, and never kicked a ball really after he left us. It was Souness done as a turn there, but I think he looked like a player. That was an Alex McLeish signing. I'm sure we signed him and Big Dado on Bosman's at that point. I don't know if an EBT was part of the attraction to pull the two of them in. To be honest, Big Bagheera was a great player. Loved Amazing. I think he would be the type of player, although he played most of his Rangers career at centre half, I think he could very well play right full back. So I think they've all got qualities. The goalkeeper, one of these good number 2 keepers. I don't think he was ever a Rangers number 1 quality sort of thing, but under the constraints of what we've got, I think it's certainly a solid back 5.
Absolutely. So let's see what's going to complement that back 5. And we've got Ricky's midfield 3. So you got to take us through that, Ricky.
Yeah, now we're talking. There's a decent midfield, isn't it? Well, Albert's a hammer with the slam. He was just loved Rangers, still love Rangers to this day. We brought him in from Hamburg. Good relationships with Hamburg, as we all know. He came in and won 3 titles, pivotal to that team, and just a joy to watch. And some of the goals he scored from range, his energy was fantastic. Running beyond the sort of the front 2 and getting into the ball over the top. He was a great player for us. Arteta, again, another sort of musician. He was a magician, should I say. He was again, came in from Spain as a very young boy, 19 years of age, I think he was. But he was great. He was very agile, could play the number 10 role if required. He had such a good brain, and I just loved watching him playing. One memory with Mikel Arteta sticking in my mind is scoring the penalty kick in that 6-1 game against Dunfermline. You get the 6th, and as it transpired, that's a goal that won us the league because of the goal difference. So yeah, I mean, he left us, went back to Spain. It didn't really work out. Then initially went back to Spain, and then Rino Gattuso, ironically, didn't win any silverware with us, but what a midfield general. And then if we had him again, I think he was a 19-year-old kid as well. If we had him in his sort of a heyday, 24, 25, because he went on and won everything in the game with AC Milan, he would have been an amazing player for us. Whether he would have stayed on the park for most of the time, because of the way he played his game. But I've actually got him down as my captain for my team because he would not take any nonsense from any player, let alone his own team. He'd have been driving every day, biting it every day to keep the spirit or the forward play of Rangers going forward. He was a great player, and that's I actually kind of built my team round about that midfield because I thought all three of them were great players for us.
Absolutely. I think I was going to say I think Gattuso certainly made up for his lack of silverware with us in the rest of his career. He's definitely a player that would have been a massive fan's favourite. I mean, he's a bit of a fan's favourite anyway, but even more so had he stayed. But if I get, I'll get Billy. If you want to give me your comments on the midfield, then I'm going to save you, Cammy, for the strikers. What's your thoughts on that, Billy?
I just don't want. I don't want to be too harsh, but I'm just wondering if we're maybe viewing Gattuso and Arteta through the lens of what they became, rather than what they were. I mean, Arteta to a degree, that that first season he was good. The Old Firm games, I felt like he was like made of chocolate. He always seemed to go missing in them. And Gattuso was, I think Paul made a comment that he was really raw with us, and I think that's right. And you mentioned yourself, Ricky. You mentioned it yourself, Ricky, that he, would he have stayed on the park? Thankfully, he channeled that and became, one of the best midfielders of that generation. As regards Alberts, can't argue with that. What a left foot he had. And despite smoking 40 fags a day, he still was able to, dominate the game up here. And I was actually surprised. It was a podcast recently I was listening to that, and I think I mentioned it on Monday again, just to try and show off that I knew that it was Smith that signed him. I always thought it was Advocat he came under, but it wasn't. It was the last season under Walter Smith. So, one of my favourite Rangers players.
It was Walter Smith, and then on to be the dominant play force in the Advocat team. But then later in the Advocat era, he wasn't getting a game. He was more often than not a sub towards the end of his Rangers career. Anyway, I mean, ironically, he went back to Hamburg and done nothing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, Ricky. So we'll go on to your strike force now. So we've got Laudrup, Jelavic, and Kanija up front. As you said, your captain Gattuso. So give us your thoughts on those picks.
Well, I won't dwell on Laudrup. I already mentioned that when I was commenting on Billy's team. The best, if not certainly one of the best Rangers players we've had. Kanija kind of sprung to mind when that lad came in from Dundee at the back end of his career. It was a kind of strange position because I always think of him as being a winger, but he was like a number 10, Kanija. Remember those sort of blonde flocks that he had? But he was 2 World Cups, 1990, 1994, and I think in the 2098 World Cup, I'm not too sure, I think it's that one, he went, but he never gets selected for the national. So he was on 3 World Cups, and we had him in our team, from Dundee. But I loved his guile when he was connecting the play, scored some good goals for us, and he worked hard. As far as Nikita Jelavic, he was, if we had him in today's team, he's just a fantastic player. I think he probably was a Rangers player in the wrong era. If he had played maybe maybe 5-6 seasons before he actually came to Rangers and our better teams when we were spending money, he would have shown, he was just a fantastic all-round player. Moved on to Everton, and he proved down in the English Premiership of just how good a player he was. The Everton fans loved him as well.
Absolutely. I think one of my favourite facts is about Kenny is the fact that we got him from Dundee when you consider everything else he's done, that he came to us via Dundee. Okay, Cammy, I'll bring you in. You got to give your thoughts on that front three?
Just quickly on Albert's wee bit of trivia, made his debut in Richard Goff's testimonial for Ibrox against Arsenal, and he actually scored on his debut. One of these useless facts that I went to the match and then went to see Oasis at Loch Lomond on the Saturday night. What was the question? I'm sorry. Kenija, I mean, what a career! What a career! And I think my highlight of him as a Rangers player was he played in a front three under Alex McLeish. It was McCann, Lovenkrands, and Kenija, and he was just, even though as he got older, he still had great pace, and you could see that he played at a really high level. Laudrup speaks for himself. He could play on the right, play on the left. I think the two players could probably switch about. Nikica Jelavic was back in the day when Rangers weren't spending a lot of money, and Walter Smith used his whole budget to sign Nikica Jelavic. And what a player, master of the one-touch finish. That's my recollection of him, the amount of one-touch finishes he had. Scored an overhead kick-up at Aberdeen this season. It was certainly a season that we won the league. A great player. Probably should have done more in his career. He done well when he left Rangers. I think it's one of the things I really regret, that was the time when Craig White just accepted like a set of strips and some balls to get shot in Nikica Jelavic. We should have had him for longer, and we should have made even more money. But that is a very good front three. Middle of the park's lovely as well. Really nice balance to it.
£5 million he went to Everton for. Not a lot of money, is it?
No, definitely get more than that, I think, definitely. But so we got, I think it's another quite attacking team, but with a little bit more defensive solidity in that one. So we'll see what the guys make of that come the ending. Okay, so thank you for that, Ricky, your team. We're going to move on now to Cammy and bring him in for his team. So I get your defensive grouping up there. So do you want to talk us through your defence, Cammy?
I mean, to be honest with you, the goalkeeper was just purely on nationality. Great character, big Lionel. I do like a story, but I actually he stayed in the city centre while he was at Rangers, stayed in a wee flat in Bath Street. For those that know Glasgow, he stayed in Bath Street. I was working in the city at that point, and he came into a pub called Barcelona on Sauchiehall Street on a Saturday night, and we'd been out straight after work. And a few years regaled him with the Lionel Charbonnier song, which was obviously to the French national anthem. So there's a wee bit of a story behind that one. The back three, Papach obviously played in a 4, but I think him and Craig Moore, I think, would be very steady, good balance, right foot, left foot, which I love in my back 4, back 3, back 5, whatever it is. I do like the balance. I think those two would keep Amoruso in check, sort of thing, and I think when you see the rest of my team, I think there's flexibility to go to a 4 rather than a 3. Not that I've overthought this or anything like that, but I just think there's a good balance to the 3 of them, and I think I don't think a lot of goals, other than Amoruso making the odd mistake. I think Craig Moore and Sasa would keep it steady.
Absolutely. Okay, if I come to you, Billy, you obviously shared Moore in your team, but anyone there that you'd like to fit into yours?
I just have a very similar story about Charbonnier. I also met him in Sauchiehall Street in a pub a bit further down towards the city side. But he was just jumping about daft in this pub, and it was so yeah, the crazy. I didn't realise he lived in town. I just thought I was lucky to meet him that night, but it looks like maybe a few of us did. But
Maybe it was the same night and he was on a pub crawl.
This was a midweek though. Did you say it was a Saturday, Cammy?
This was a Friday night. He was just in for a bite to eat, and we were obviously out for a Friday night. We were going to the game on the Saturday. He was just out for a quiet Friday night, and we made sure it wasn't a quiet Friday night for him.
No, this was like student times for me, so it was probably a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something like that. But no, I liked him. We've been blessed with good goalkeepers. He maybe doesn't come out as one of the very top ones, but I thought he was a great character. I loved him at the club. I just liked the strip I think he wore at the time was a silver one. He just looked kind of smart in it as well. And Papach, the only thing I worry about is who's going to shout at Papach in that back four. Because he needs somebody to shout at him all the time if McGregor's not there. But anyway, no, solid back three there. And I'm looking forward to see what your midfield's going to be to supplement that if needed.
Yeah, what about you, Ricky? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Charbonnier, again, it sort of comes back to the kind of money we were spending. I mentioned earlier on, Anthony Niemi was sort of like Siamese in between Charbonnier and Stefan Klos. I mean, these guys were top goalkeepers. Charbonnier was the French #1. Am I right in saying he was a World Cup winner? Was it? Did France win the World Cup with him in goal? I'm not sure if that's true, but he certainly was the French #1.
He was definitely part of the squad. Him and Stefan Givars were definitely part of the squad that won in '98.
Yeah, a recollection of that. Papach and Moore we've already spoke about, and Amoruso, he was a great player for us. Again, Mr. Rangers, he loved our club, and I loved the way he used to just maraud down through the defence with that burst of pace, the big strength that he had. He was sometimes susceptible to the odd mistake, as we all know, but overall he was adored by the Rangers fans, and he was a good player for us. Yeah, good choice.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to that midfield then and see what we can get. Oh,
can I just come in and say it was Fabien Barthez was the goalkeeper for the France '98.
Oh, Barthez, the bald head guy, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, as Cammy said, he probably was in the squad though, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure he was. Yep.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, he was the backup goalkeeper.
Oh, what a midfield. What a midfield. Tugai was one of these players. It was at a time where we had an abundance of riches, and he didn't. It's probably one of those. He didn't play enough. He didn't show enough. But in the games that he did play, just a classy footballer. And I think a lot of people, even after he left, said that he was one of the best players they'd ever played with. Another one that liked a fag sort of situation. You know, the thing I liked about this midfield was, I think spoke earlier, Claudio Reina's versatility. Claudio Reina could very easily drop into the right back position, so it could very much Papach could go to left back, and that Arfield could go to the right, Tugai and Gio in the middle, you know. So I like the fact that there's a bit of I could go all Michael Beale in the middle of this team and change formation and all that sort of stuff. Probably the wrong manager to talk about, to be honest. But any sort of Rangers team, any sort of football team, I love naturally left-footed players. I love a natural balance in a team. And Papach, Alberts, Van Bronckhorst would do that, you know, and I think that's a huge factor in they were, you know, Alberts and Gio scored some great goals for us. Claudio Reina, I just thought was a real really steady footballer, just a lovely footballer that could just play the game simple. Scott Arfield's probably a surprise for a lot of people, but I think the type of player that I think the modern game, there isn't a lot of them about. Somebody from midfield that wants to actually score goals and very, very energetic. again could play as a sort of in the centre, or he could play as a sort of number 10 further forward, So I think there's good balance, and it could go to a 3, or it could go. You could have Reina and 2 guys, 2 sitters, and that sort of thing, and have Alberts, Gio, and Scotty Arfield ahead of them, But it's a team on the middle 5 on paper. I would love to have seen at their peak.
Absolutely, I think that would be quite frightening if you managed to get that, to be honest. In a good way, I should say. Billy, what's your thoughts there?
I can't argue with any of Cammy's reasoning. Arfield for the late runs into the box as well, supporting the forwards would be good. Am I right? The 2 guy also going to Blackburn after us. So went on and played in the Premier League as well. So, I mean, and Albert's just, great player for us. So, and obviously I wanted Gio on my team as well. So I can't really argue with any of that selection. Cammy, well done.
Definitely. What's your thoughts, Ricky?
Yeah, I echo the thoughts of the lads. 2 guy was a very elegant football player. Underestimated, really, I suppose. And I know it was almost £5 million Blackburn paid for him at the time, I think, when he moved on. And I remember he had a successful career down at Blackburn. And at the time, where Scotty Arfield, I think, was playing with Burnley. So they'd have been fierce rivals, actually, at that particular time. Scotty Arfield's just arrived back in Yorkshire, actually. I think he's over in Lancashire. He's just signed for Bolton. Not too sure if you're aware of that, guys. But yeah, he was a great player for Rangers, and we missed the energy of Scott Arfield. Okay, I know he was probably at the back end of his career, but we don't have currently that energy of that midfielder running beyond and giving us the options, which Arfield did time and time again. Alberts, Gio, and Reina have already spoke about. So yeah, a good 4, good 5, whatever way you want to put that as a formation. A good set of players, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, Cammy, do you want to take us through your attack?
I think we spoke about these guys. I was a huge fan of Nikica Jelavic. I think Laudrup could, in the modern game, Laudrup would be your sort of play off the striker. I think very, very versatile. Go right, go left. He would be feeding Jelavic for fun. I will give an honourable mention to Alfredo Morelos, a huge favourite of mine. Equally sad as Ricky that his Rangers career ended in the way it did. It's not the way that it should have ended, but that's done. He was very, very close, but I think Jelavic was part of winning Rangers teams. Scored the winning goal in the cup final against that mob at Hampden. Scored a hat trick on the final day in 20. Was it no a hat trick? He got 2 at Kilmarnock in 2011. Did he get 2? Who was it that got the hat trick? Lafferty got the hat trick. Stevie Naismith and Jelavic scored a crackery free kick. Just a fantastic footballer that I would love to have seen play in a better Rangers team. With a Laudrup, or no disrespect to Greg Wild, but Greg Wild was his left winger when we won the league that day in 2011. I just think. A great player, Nikica Jelavic, but I would love to have seen him playing, scoring for us. Laudrup just speaks for itself. Probably the greatest foreign player ever to play for our club.
Absolutely, and I mean, speaks volumes. He's been in all 3 teams thus far, which really says it all. Regardless of the rules, everyone's making the space for him. Billy, anything to add? We've kind of touched on both of the players.
We've touched on them both already, mate. Yeah, I mean, Jelavic, great striker for us, and Laudrup, for me, one of our best ever players. So you can't argue with them being there.
Absolutely not, Billy. Ricky, even anything else you want to add?
Yeah, well, what I would say, we were saying earlier on about Laudrup being one of their best players, as Cammy just rightly said, he definitely is the best foreign player we've ever had at Ibrox. That's got no doubt whatsoever. Jelavic, incidentally, I've got it down as he had 56 appearances for us and he scored 36 goals. That's a hell of a return. So I kind of echo what I was saying earlier on about Jelavic. I think he was a great player who played in the wrong era for us, perhaps. I just think if it was a bit earlier in our sort of a history, he would have shown like everybody else did in the kind of Advocat Smith era, when money was getting spent. He would have been in our team, not sitting on a subs bench, in my opinion.
Absolutely, he's one of those strikers that just had the ability to just connect with the ball and always find the net. I think he was. I'm sure he was particularly good at first touch finishes as well. I'd say just one of those guys. He just had it. Like you say, 30 odd goals and 50 odd appearances. Really kind of fills it all in. So that's us at the end of Cammy's team even. So we shall move on to myself, my humble self. So what I've done I've deliberately made a few left field choices to make my team as kind of different as possible, just for the sake of fun. Otherwise, I think some Laudrup would have made it into all four teams. So before anyone starts shouting at me for not having some Laudrup and various other people's, some of these choices were made for the fun rather than the quality. So I'll bring up my defence first of all. I figured out with the no British rule, I really only had two. I technically only had one choice of goalkeeper, which was Stefan Kloss, who definitely would make a list if I was choosing my absolute best, until I realised my first ever Rangers game was Rangers versus Aberdeen. And in goal for Aberdeen that day was Theo Snelders, who obviously came to us after a very successful career with Aberdeen. He played, I think, over 200 odd appearances he made for them and helped them win the Scottish Cup by saving a penalty against Celtic. So, I mean, that's a good qualifier for any Rangers player. So I put him in. Although that did mean I couldn't put in Van Bronckhorst, who I would have liked to have picked. But so those are the sacrifices I made, so we could all have different goalkeepers. And then I've got Katic, Bjorklund, and Balogun. So two more modern guys there. I think I'm sure everyone's very familiar with them. Bjorklund, for anyone who's maybe not as familiar, is a Swedish defender. He was a very solid centre back. Went on to great success after us as well with Valencia, who he went on in their team that got to back-to-back Champions Leagues finals, winning their second one. He was a part of that team, and won quite a few trophies with them as well, in addition to the trophies he won with ourselves. And yeah, he was just a player I kind of liked from that era. So that's my defence. I'll come to you first, Ricky. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, looking at your back three, Snelders, it's not, I know you've went off grid to do this here, it's not the kind of player. In fact, I don't really remember much of him at Rangers, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Big Balogun, he's here currently, does a job. We could have done with having him in our team 10 years ago when he would have had that strength. I just think he's at an age now where perhaps he's just that injury prone because his body's getting older and weaker and he's susceptible to knocks. Jockey Bjorklund, he was a great player, Swedish international, and as you rightly say, went on and won the Champions League with Valencia. So he was no mug. And Big Katic, I still to this day don't believe that we let him go. I remember that header he scored at Parkhead. He just powered himself in, got that goal. We've not had that from a centre half, that can just do those kind of things ever since he's left. Really, we don't see it from the current centre halves. Bullying people, getting up there, winning balls. His timing was brilliant. Even in the defend, when he could attack a ball from our own corners. So it was. I just think if we'd have nurtured him as a young boy, he could be one of our mainstay centre halves for me. But we let him go because we deemed him not to be good enough. Don't know why.
Yeah. It's no. I don't think it's any surprise you maybe don't remember Snelders that much. He only played, I think it was 18 times, less than 20 times for us before we let him go. And he was second choice for the majority of that. In fact, for all of that, I think. So no real surprise there. Okay, so I'll come to just one so that we keep to time. Cammy, Billy, anyone got any particularly strong opinions they want to?
Can I just say, Snelders at Aberdeen, I think was a great goalkeeper for them.
Yeah, he was.
He'd be pushing Barisic for Heart of a Mouse competition, I think, though at Rangers, because he seemed to have no confidence in goal when he played for us, and the few times that he did. So, and the only other thing I need to disagree with Ricky. I've seen Katic enough times in the flesh to see him getting caught under the ball, more than once in a match, and I think that was why he was let go. He did have that dominance, going for corners and stuff like that, but it was maybe his defensive side of it wasn't as good as maybe what Gerrard needed it to be. So I liked him as well, but I think he gets better the more he's away, if you know what I mean. Like we think back on him fondly, and especially that goal at Parkhead. But I can see why he was let go, Ricky. That's the only thing I would say.
He's the one thing I would say, if he'd maybe just trusted and brought him on, because he's now back playing in the Bosnia team, international team. So he's deemed good enough for a good Baltic state. But yet I think we just let him go too soon, Billy.
Maybe
nobody's perfect at that age, but I think he could have turned into be a good player.
It's kind of funny you mentioned Billy Snelders being a bit softer, because when I was doing a bit of reading about him to sort of remind myself, he was known in Aberdeen for being a bit of a hothead, because at one point he got so annoyed at a penalty that was given that he lamped the player that had went down and got sent off. So he must have just calmed in his old age.
I think it was the shot. Just the shot was too big for him, mate.
That'll be it. Cammy,
I think Billy. I think he also bottled it when he was playing with he was due to play for the national team for Netherlands, and I'm sure something similar happened. So I think it was one of those good keeper at Aberdeen, really good keeper at Aberdeen, but couldn't handle playing with a massive club or for his country. Big Bjorklund, my goodness. He wasn't great on the ball, but he had fantastic recovery pace. I think that was under Walter Smith. I remember Walter going to a back three. I'm sure it was Petric, Richard Gough, and Bjorklund were the back three at the time when we had Gascoigne and Laudrup. But Bjorklund was a very, very underrated Rangers player. Katic is almost a case of what might have been great in the opposition box, but I think I tend to agree with Billy. Just a wee bit raw defensively, but he's going on to make a decent career of himself now. So, but all solid enough.
So I definitely echo I think it was Billy that said the point about Balogun, and I absolutely wish we'd gotten him earlier. And by all accounts, from having to listen to him, I think he'd have been quite happy to have found his way to Rangers earlier as well. So definitely one for the what if pile. Okay, so we'll move on to my midfield, which is completely out of balance purely through the length of name of one of these players. So I've got Pedro Mendes. Again, I'm sure a lot of people remember Pedro. He's got a cracking Old Firm goal in his locker. Great player before he came. Obviously, we don't think we got the best of him, but was still good enough to give us a few things. Tony Vidmar, who's just a personal a player that I just liked for some reason. He was never the greatest player, but he was never terrible. Most well known for his scoring against Parma in that game, along with Reina. I've got Hadji as my sort of more attacking mid. Big Hadji fan. Again, it looks like he's going to kind of fall into the what if pile. It looks like he'll probably be away this year. I'd love for him to have just not gotten that injury, and I think we'd be sitting here with a couple of decent years out of him. We'll see what happens with that one. And then a bit of a more old school one, Alexei Mikhailchenko. You can get your mouth around that one. decent Russian player that came in. Had a great first season. Won, I think, a double and a treble in his first 2 years, although he didn't play as often in the second year, but still contributed. Really nice technical midfielder. He was played out of position a lot. He was tended to be put on the left by Walter, despite being a more right-sided central player. But as I say, he still contributed, particularly in his first season. So if I come back to you, Cammy, any thoughts on those?
Pedro Mendes, he scored some absolute crackers in his short time at Rangers. Tannadice, the day we won the league, and the one across the city when he pinged it. Tony Vidmar, I think, very underrated. Could play right back, could play left back. You've obviously got him in the middle of the park, but I think you could probably drop him in, and he could be your full back. I actually saw Tony Vidmar.
Exactly what I was thinking.
I actually saw Tony Vidmar score a hat-trick, which is quite bizarre, at Livingston in a pre-season friendly. It's bizarre, the things that I can remember 20 years ago, to be honest. Big Miko was just the laziest player you've ever seen in your life, but he had a wand of a left foot. Always remember his debut. He made it at Falkirk, and he tried to score for the halfway line. Not a great deal of legs in that middle of the park. Hadji and Miko and Mendes pulling so I think the defenders would have to be defending, but going forward, I think certainly Hadji, Miko, and Pedro Mendes, all really lovely footballers.
Yeah, you really have seen through me with that one. My thought is out of possession, Vidmar will drop and they'll shift over. That'll make a nice wee solid unit. Ricky, any thoughts on those four?
Well, I need to obviously conscious of the time, Doug, but Mendes, for me, I always remember very, very similar, not only in style of play, but in looks to Guy, actually. And I do remember that goal, as Cammy said, across the city with his left peg. It was just low and hard into the bottom corner. It's absolutely fantastic. I remember being at Parkhead once when we were standing outside trying to get in. There was queues and queues and queues. The game had already started. We were 2-0 up in the first 5 minutes. And have they scored? Have they not scored? They're coming through on the radio. It was the time of the old sort of mobiles. And I think Mikhailichenko maybe have scored one of the two, or it was the other Russian lad. My name forgets me now. But there was the two Russians in the team at the time, wasn't there?
Yep.
And then Hadji, again, going back to Katic, I desperately want that lad to stay. There's a player in there. For me, we're desperate for a number 10 to link the play, and why not give that to let him try this season and let him try and be that link man. He's definitely got it. He's a great player, and he's got a good football brain. And I just, why are we trying to get rid of this lad? Beale sent him out the door. I don't know why. We've now got him back, and I just think this is a chance. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what he can produce. We'll soon see when he gets back from his extended break, because obviously the Euros. But I'd like to see him stay.
Absolutely agree with that one. So I'll bring you in for my attackers, Billy, if you don't mind, just as we're getting towards the end. So I've got an attacking three here of Peter Lovenkrands, Claudio Caniggia, and one of my favourite recent players, Fashion Sakala, just for his smile and happiness, if nothing else. Although he did, as I like to repeatedly point out, he did actually get decent numbers despite his misses against Celtic. So, any thoughts on that front three, really?
Well, we've talked about Caniggia already, so I'll move on for that. Lovenkrands, unless he had a contract to be signed, he maybe wasn't the best, but scored some really important goals for us. I liked when he first came through. He was actually played as a number 9 as well. Scored a couple of goals against Celtic. He then seemed to be, he'd hugged the touchline later on in his kind of Rangers career. But I do like Lovenkrands. Sakala, I remember there was his debut against Real Madrid, and he scored. It was one of his first games anyway, and I remember texting my friend saying, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this is the best player we've ever signed. But he didn't quite reach that. But no, I would have kept. I mean, can't turn the money down that we got for him. But I was in no rush to see him out the door. As much as he missed a few shots, he was always back up and smiling. And I think does he get credited with the goal in the final against Celtic as well, a couple of seasons back.
I think it went down as an own goal.
Was it an own goal? So, well, he was heavily involved in that. So
it certainly was.
Like all of your forwards, mate. So no harsh criticisms of any of them.
Cool. Okay, we are starting to get to hitting the end of our hour, so forgive me, Cammy and Ricky. We'll push on to the end. So just the one thing I wanted to do before we kind of get to the last part. This suggestion was made to us by Paul, who's in the chat tonight. So thank you very much, Paul, for this suggestion. And Paul obviously put his own team together, which I'll pop on the screen here. She's got Niemi, Bugera, Boomsong, Queller, Tugai, Kanchelskis, Jonas Turn, which is a nice little appearance there. Alberts, Laudrup, Negri, and Mall. So, Ricky, do you want to just very quickly give us a wee thought on Paul's team?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I'm surprised he went for Niemi. Maybe he just went for the sort of the gag winning as well. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue. There's so many good players. The one guy in there that we've not actually spoke about at all is Michael Moles. Why would he not be in your team? He had everything. When we spoke about him on Monday night, he had absolutely everything. Michael Moles could hold the ball up, could turn, was quick, and scored goals. And if it wasn't for that injury, we would have got a lot more out of him. Again, we spoke about Negri. Had he kept fit, God knows where he would have went for us. But yeah, can't argue with that team at all.
Absolutely. Cammy, any thoughts on that?
Carlos Queller, it's quite remarkable that he never made any of our teams, to be honest with you. He only gave us one season, but alongside Davy Weir, a really good Rangers player for that season, Mikey Malls, and a case of what could have been, had a good Rangers career even after he came back. But again, we spoke about Marco Negri, the opening few months of his Rangers career, Mikey Malls, that they trademark Turn, a fantastic player. That's a very decent 11. So well done to Paul.
Yeah, I think looking at that, if you got the first 6 months of Negri and the first 6 months of Malls at the same time, you'd have won the league by the first 6 months. You'd have scored that many goals. So I think you're well into something there, Paul. So thanks very much for sending your team in. Okay, so the just the very last thing before we finish then is I said to you guys, would give you the chance to pick who you think, not necessarily maybe is the best, but just who your favourite team of the four was. So I've got the four teams up there. Hopefully you can kind of see them. They've all got a number. So my team number 1, Björklund's Bluebells. You've got Cammy's number 2, Giovanni's Jazz. Ricky's number 3, Reno's Rangers. And Billy's number 4, Moors Marauders. So if I ask you guys if you can put in the chat 1, 2, 3 or 4 as to which your favourite 11 is. And there's no prize, guys. I'm sorry, I haven't got you any of you as a prize. So your prize will just be smugness. So we'll see if give a wee second to see if the guys have any thoughts. Tough choices, I know, but so we've got 1 vote for 2. So 2. Sorry, Paul's picking his own team. Secret Team 5, sneaky Team 5.
Oh, is it?
Team 3. So it's one. So 1 for Ricky, 1 for Cammy. We might need a tiebreaker. Anyone else? Oh, I don't know if we're getting anything else coming in. Oh, is that refreshing? Let me have a wee look here. Someone in the Rangers Journal that wasn't me has voted number 4. I wonder who that could have been. 1, 2, 3, and 4 will all do. Okay, well, that's also I'm going to take the executive choice, and 2 and 3 both got what I would call honest votes. So I'm going to give it to Ricky and his team purely for the I think the choice of Caniggia, because if anyone has not seen Caniggia's Wikipedia page photograph, go look at it. It's absolutely glorious. So I'm going to crown Ricky the top team for the night. So well done, Ricky.
Yes, thanks. That was fun. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I think everybody's had fun making their teams. So as I say, thanks once again to Paul. If anyone has any other ideas for this kind of thing, with different rules, by all means, suggest it to us. Or indeed, if you have any thoughts for podcasts, if you go to our YouTube page and go to the community tab, then Scotty's got a question up there asking for suggestions. If you put something there, then we'll see it, and you may get your topic on the Rangers Journal. So I think that just leaves me to say thank you for those of you that tuned in, for your comments, for your teams, for everyone that put teams in the comments. Thanks to the guys for participating. So thank you, Cammy and Ricky.
Thanks very much, guys, and I really enjoyed that, and I'll see you next week at some stage.
Yep, and thank you, Billy.
No, thanks, mate. It was fun doing it. Cheers.
Yep, absolutely. I had a lot of fun picking my crazy random team. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and that just leaves me to say that don't forget that every night is Rangers Journal night.